Okay, hello everyone. So today we will talk about design of keys. Particular to we will discuss about the design of flat and square keys, and then we will extend the same thing to the design of splines. So as far as the definition of key is concerned, it is a machine element which connects the transmission shaft to the rotating machine elements like pulleys, gears, sprockets, or flywheels. Because the purpose of the transmission shaft to these machine elements is to transmit the torque. So key serves an insignificant element in that. So such that it transmits the torque from hub to the machine element to the shaft, and the secondary function is to prevent a relative motion between the shaft as well as hub. So here you can see in the diagram, so when the key is inserted, uh, this is a shaft where the keyway is present, and this is a hub. The keyway is also present here, and the key dimensions, if we see, its cross section is square or rectangular, and it has certain length. So therefore a conventional key has three dimensions, that is B, H, and L. So as a designer we need to design these parameters, and they will be dependent upon the diameter of the shaft, which we design depending upon strength or stiffness consideration. So as far as classification of keys is concerned, uh, one is saddle keys. Saddle keys are those which have the class keyway only on the hub. There is no keyway present on the shaft. So you can see here the keyway which is represented here. This is only present in the hub. There is no keyway in the shaft. So this is called saddle key, and saddle key can be of hollow type or a flat type, right? So in a hollow type saddle key, the lower surface, the bottom surface of the key is curved so as to fit the curvature of the shaft, so that gives a uh, close fit over the surface of the shaft, and hence the relative motion between the shaft and the hub is reduced. But what happens in saddle key, since the keyway is present only in the shaft, particularly at the higher torques, there will be a significant amount of relative motion. So what is another requirement, that the keyway must be present at the shaft as well as at the hub. So these types of keys are called sunk keys. So in case of sunk keys, you can see here the keyway is present in shaft as well as in hub, right? So you can have a cross section as a square where sorry you can have a cross section as a square where B and H are equal, or you can have a rectangular cross section. So these are the standard cross section which are used. And one important point to keep in mind here is, uh, in general, these width B for a square key, B and H are 1/4 of the diameter of the shaft. That means if in the preliminary design of a shaft, let us say you have decided the shaft diameter as 20 mm, so width and thickness will be 5 mm, and the length will be 1.5 times the diameter, that is 30 mm. So that is an industrial practice standard which is being used for the design of sunk keys. So next we have this is the design table which we follow for a particular shaft diameter. Again, this we have taken from VB Bhandari textbook which we follow, and the shaft diameter which we are taking is, let us say we have a shaft diameter of 25 mm, so 22 to 30 we go with key size as 8 cross 7, and key depth is 4 mm, right? So these are the tables which we will use for dimensions of square and rectangular sunk keys. Apart from saddle and sunk keys, we have many other keys classification. Some of them we will discuss here, but since the primary function of our task is to design the keys, so we will basically stick to rectangular sunk keys. But let us go into briefly what are the other keys available. So there is one more classification called feeder key. In this key you can see this is a parallel key which is fixed to either shaft or to the hub, and it permits the relative axial movement, no other movement. So this has a particular advantage that it permits the axial movement between them, but it does not permit the movement in the other direction, that is lateral direction. Then there is a Woodruff key in which the upper surface is flat, which is generally connected to the hub, and the bottom surface is curved in the shape of the shaft so as to ensure the tightness, degree of tightness. And the lower surface, you can see it is generally a semicircular recess with the same curvature as that of keyway in the shaft. Okay, so the degree of tightness will increase, and definitely the relative motion will be substantially reduced. Right, so these are two keys which we have discussed apart from saddle key and sunk key. Moreover, our main purpose for today's talk is to go in design of square and flat keys. So whatever machine elements we discuss, if we discussed prior to MST or just after that like shaft, the first thing which we need to understand is the type of forces which are subjected to the machine element. For example, here it is, we are considering a key. So this key will be subjected to this force P and this reaction from the hub. This force P is which is on plane AC, and the reaction from the hub is on plane DB. They will be obviously equal and opposite. But if we see this, the line of action is not the same, that they are not acting in the same plane. The force is P which is acting at plane AC, and the force P which is acting on plane DB. Since this is equal in magnitude but having a different line of action, it will form a couple. So what will be the tendency of this couple? The tendency of this couple will be to roll the key in between keyway. So it means that, but we cannot afford that. So it means that there must be certain equal and opposite couple which must be acting. So this couple is resisted by a resisting couple which is produced by forces P prime, which are shown on plane AD and plane BC in the diagram. Right, so these are the forces which are acting. Now one primary thing which we need to understand is the shaft is under rotation, and that too with mt. Mt is the torque transmitted. Mt is the torque transmitted. So we can always express this P in terms of the torque transmitted. Right, so for doing that we need to go with one assumption, that this P is tangential to the shaft diameter. So I think that is a satisfactory assumption which we need to carry out. And if we see this P can be equated to torque transmitted, that is P is equal to torque divided by D into D by 2, that, or MT is equal to P into D by 2, which is P into D by 2, this half distance. So we get this expression for the force. Since we know the RPM, we know the power capacity, so MT are generally known to us. So that means P are known to us, that is forces acting on the part, on the key. So now let us go with the design. So here also the key is being subjected to forces P. Now one can visualize the force P in two ways, like P is trying to slice down the key, or P is trying to compress the key. So in both the scenarios, the criteria of failure will be different. When the P is trying to slice down the key, that means it is trying to cause the shear. So the shear stress will be a cause of failure. So therefore, our design must be based on shear stress. But in the other scenario, when we assume that P is trying to crush the P or compress the key, so that means the compressive stress will be a criteria for the key design. So let us look at both these cases one by one. So let us say we have the failure due to shear stress. So when we are assuming that it is because of the shear stress, that means we have to visualize that P is trying to slice it down. So I think this diagram helps us in that way, that the force P is trying to slice it down. So what will be the shear stress produced here? P divided by the area. It is very important to identify the area here, because uh, it is trying to slice down the area at AB across its length. So the area will be B times L, right? So shear stress will be P divided by area of plane AB, which is equal to P by BL, where B is width of the key and L is the length of the key, as we have defined earlier. So this shear stress now becomes the criteria of failure. So that means we already know that P is equal to mt by d by 2, which is equal to 2mt by d, and we can substitute P is equal to tau into BL. So that means I can get tau is equal to 2mt by dBL. That means my shear stress should not exceed this value. Or if I know the limiting value of shear stress, we can determine what is dBl, any one of them, obviously, because we have only one equation. We have to get, we can get only one parameters, right? So now if you look at the case B, when the failure is because of compressive stress, then we can assume that the key is being compressed because of this force P. So when it is being compressed, the effective area will be this area, right? So in that case, we can generally assume that it is h by 2, because total height is h. So area of the surface will be P by h by 2, so that will be equal to 2P by HL, right? So this is compressive stress. Same way we can replace P from the expression of moment, torsional moment. So sigma C will come out to be 4mt by dHL. Now we can note down these expressions relatively. The failure due to shear stress is tau is equal to 2mt by dBl, and failure due to compressive stress gives us sigma C is equal to 4mt by dHL. Now if we see clearly these expressions, my shear stress is independent of the thickness, and compressive stress is independent of the width. So that is clearly the reason that why while taking the areas, that parameter is not being taken into account. Now these are for the rectangular keys, but what happens if it is a square key? In case of a square key, it is evident that B and H are equal. So that means tau and sigma C MTL, if we see both these parameters, we can definitely say that sigma C is twice of the shear stress. So that means compressive stress is twice of the shear stress developed in the square key, only for the square key, where in the case where B is equal to H. Therefore, the compressive stress induced in a square key due to transmitted torque is twice the shear stress. So that is one of the important observation which we can see. So it means we are designing a key basis on the basis of two parameters. One is compressive stress, one is shear stress. Now this is as far as uh, calculation of stresses is concerned. Now we need to use these stresses for the design, right? So in order to perform that, we will utilize the theories of failure. Okay, we can definitely utilize the theory of failure to get the results or how to design them, right? So let us have a look at few illustrations after before proceeding towards that. Now let us say that you have to design a square key for a gear of shaft 25 mm diameter. So you have already have a shaft of 25 mm diameter, but you can see that here the shaft diameter is directly given. It is possible that since uh, we are looking for design of machine elements, it is not always that you will be asked to design only one component. ओके, तो ऐसा हो सकता है कि पहले आपको शाफ्ट का डिजाइन करना हो और उस शाफ्ट के डिजाइन के बेसिस पे आप की का डिजाइन कर रहे हैं. ओके, for this application your shaft design is diameter is known, that is 25 mm, and it must transmit 15 kilometer power at 720 rpm. That means because rpm and power is known, that means torque is known. Mt is equal to 2 pi, sorry, p is equal to 2 pi n mt by 60. Okay, we have a standard formula for that. The key is made up of steel 50C4, so it is a ductile material with the tensile strength is equal to 460 megapascal. Yield tensile strength is 460 megapascal, and the factor of safety is 3. For key material, the yield strength in compression can be assumed equal to the yield strength in tension. That is I think it is a ductile material, so it is a good assumption that tensile strength and compressive strength are identical. Now what happens? We have to determine the dimension of the key. The first thing what we need is compressive strength if we are designing on the basis of compressive, or shear strength if we are designing on the basis of shear stress. So it is clear to us that compressive strength is equal to tensile strength. So that means my compressive strength is equal to shear strength, tensile strength, which is equal to 460 Newton per mm square or 460 megapascal. Since I have to make use of factor of safety, so permissible compressive stress is 460 divided by 3, that is close to 154 megapascal. Now we do not have the value of shear stress, but it is a good assumption if you recall the theory of failure, particularly the maximum shear stress theory, that states that the shear strength is 50% of the tensile strength. So in that assumptions I can take SSY is equal to 0.5 of SYT, that is 230 megapascal, 230 megapascal, and shear stress will come out to be 230 by 3 after taking a factor of safety into account as 77 megapascal, which is obviously half of the compressive strength. So now these two stress values we will use for the design part. So torque transmitted by that shaft, since we know that power capacity, we know the rpm, we can always calculate the mt. So if you calculate the mt, we can always calculate, because in our relations what we have derived, let us go back here. So the stress equation for the design condition for the due to the shear stress as well as design consideration due to compressive stress, it carries three parameters, DHL, DBL, but we can get only one, right? Because this is only one equation. So let us go back to our assumption which we have given, or standard usage of codes in industry, that indicates that for a square key you can use 1/4 of the shaft diameter or 1/4 of the shaft diameter. So let us say, I think it is a good assumption, B is equal to H is equal to D by 4, that is 6 mm, right? So then you can determine what is the length. So length will come out to be 34.60 mm. This is on the basis of shear stress. Same way you can determine the length on the basis of compressive strength. So fortunately in this case, because already the difference was 2 and 2, and the values shear stress and compressive stress, permissible shear stress and permissible compressive stress, they also have a ratio of 1:2. So fortunately, or just by calculations, this length comes out to be identical. So we go with the design that final dimensions are 6 cross 6 cross 35 mm, right? In the case when this length is not coming same, obviously you will choose the larger one, right, in order to remain safe from both the theories, both the approaches, that is approach from the compressive stress as well as approach from the shear stress. Okay, now let us have a look at spline. Let us have a look at spline. Splines are the keys which are made integral with the shaft. They are generally, the keys are auxiliary components. Okay, you have a keyway on the shaft, you have a keyway on the hub, and a key is inside it. But splines are made integral on the shaft, and an a way or a hole is created onto the hub. Okay, so that they are engaged, they are engaged between shaft and the hub, the axial movement is zero and the torque transmission take place. Generally in automobile applications of large gearboxes require such type of splines. Okay, we can see here. So these are the splines, okay, and which are cut on a shaft, they generally by milling process. Okay, and this is a hub. So when the connection is made, when they are connected to each other, the torque transmission takes place very effectively. Now there are few parameters which we'll use for design. D is the outer diameter of the spline, or you call it as major diameter. Small d is the minor diameter of the spline. Okay, and L is the length of the hub, okay, which is not shown here. N is the number of splines, how many number of splines are being used. And if you see here in the force diagram, we will also have a look at this. When the torque transmission take place onto this spline surface edge, a pressure will act. Okay, there is a limiting value of this pressure which we will use. This is called PM, or mean pressure, right? So the torque transmissibility capacity of spline will be given by this torque MT, will be dependent on this PM, that is permissible pressure, into area into mean radius of this spline. Okay, because pressure into volume, you can say that will give me the pressure into area is force, and radius is the perpendicular distance which will give the torque transmitting capacity. Okay, so I think a very easy convenient expression to express the torque transmitted capacity of splines we can see here. Obviously we can see what will be the area. Area is half into d minus d into ln. What is mean radius? Okay, so these are conventional relationship which in terms of which can be expressed in terms of major and minor diameter of the splines. We can have a look again at major and minor diameters. So this is d, capital D is the major diameter, which is this diameter, major diameter. Small d is the minor diameter, which is obviously this diameter d. Okay, so you can always determine area as well as RMA and RM from these calculation, and hence find out torsional moment, that is MT, which is equal to 1 by 8 PM ln. This is not natural log, it should be written NL to avoid the confusion. It is L is length, N is the number of splines, length of the hub. L is length of the hub, N is the number of splines, capital D is the major diameter, small d is the minor diameter, PM is the permissible pressure, which we'll have a look again. Okay, right. As far as design part is concerned, the permissible pressure is limited to 6.5 megapascal. I think this is one of the parameter for the spline design which we have to keep in mind, that as per the guidelines we follow with 6.5 megapascal is the limiting pressure on the splines. Okay, let us have a quick numerical example onto the spline. So a standard spline connection with 8 cross 52 cross 60 is used for gear and the shaft assembly of a gearbox. The spline transmits 80 kilowatt power at 300 rpm. So it clearly means when I am given with power and I am given with rpm, I can actually evaluate the transmitting torque, right? Now, the dimensions of the splines are as followed. Major diameter, that is capital D, minor diameter is 52, number of splines is 8. The permissible normal pressure on the spline is given. Still, if it is not given, it is always PM is 6.5 megapascal. The coefficient of friction is 0.06. Calculate the length of hub of the gear, the force required for shifting the gear. So it's a very important problem which you can directly relate it to your gearbox type of problems. So the given non-parameters are power, RPM, permissible pressure, force applying, D, N is known. Coefficient of friction is again known. We have to get the L, that is length. So now I know that I can get torque transmitted because I am given with power and RPM. So torque transmitted comes out to be 636 kilonewton millimeter. Okay, and then in order to get the length of the hub, we have simply the expression for mt. We in previous expression which we have derived, I think I have to go back and show you with the expression which we have derived for this particular problem. The only unknown is L. I know PM, I know N, I know capital D, I know small d, I know MT. So L can be evaluated, which is nothing but length of the hump, which comes out to be 110 mm. Okay, so the next part was the force transmitted to required for shifting the gear, right? In order to evaluate the force transmitted, we must evaluate what is the P which is acting on the spline. Okay, so what we can do is it is again a reasonable assumption like what we have done in we have done a relationship in a key between force applied onto the key with the torsional moment or the torque of the shaft. Okay, so same way we can always take mt is equal to p into rm, the force into rm. So r is the mean radius which we defined earlier. So the force will come out to be 22.74 kilonewton. So what will be the frictional force? Because frictional force is mu times p, so 1364.19 newton, so that is close to 1.36 kilonewton, right? So therefore the force required to shift the gear is equal and opposite to the friction force, because one in order to shift the gears we have to work against the friction. So whatever the friction force is coming, that is 1.37 kilonewton, so the same force is nothing but the force applied to shift the gears. So therefore the force required to shift the gear is 1364.19 newton or 1.36 kilonewton. So by this I think we can understand the design process of splines. Though we did not go into the actual design of the splines, but the problem could have been reverse, that one of the parameter is known to you, like L is known to you, so you have to get the diameters. Okay, and or the other way, and same way the key designs. So these are some of the important design aspects of splines as well as keys, and very important machine elements, because they connect a driver as well as a driven component, shaft and hub, so like pulley and shaft. Okay, so these are very important components which will require the significant design considerations. So I think we will end the session today at this point. Maybe in tomorrow's talk, or I mean in next time, we'll talk about design of couplings. Thank you for paying attention.